easy, conversations wild and free. Words that spark our minds ignite, lighting up our darkest night. Talking about dreams and brighter days, walking through the hopeful maze.
It's that time of the week where we bring you nothing but insightful discussions that talk about life lessons, that just brings you a change and a positive impact in your life. So you are watching Temi Talks, and I must take this opportunity to welcome you all, my wonderful audience that stay glued to this show. So today we have an insightful topic indeed, because we are talking about rejection. So I'm not with Susan today. I am with another guest who I am going to give chance to introduce herself. Thank you so much for coming through, so that you can introduce yourself to the audience and what you do.
Hey everybody, hello Temwani. Thank you for having me. My name is Farai Tembo. I am currently a hospitality student at the Zambian Institute of Tourism and Hospitality. And I also do sell perfumes. And I sing too.
You sing too?
Yes.
Okay, this is great.
Don't
Okay,
worry.
so Farai will help us understand what rejection is. So, Farai, in your own definition, I just want you to help us understand what rejection is.
Well, rejection is not being wanted, being neglected.
Okay, so have you ever faced rejection in your life?
Well, yes, a lot.
A lot. Okay, so we want to know what led to you to face rejection.
Okay, so the story starts when I was a very young child. My father neglected me. My father rejected me. Then it went on to the growing up. I had an instance where when my mom passed on, the people I used to stay with, they neglected me. They rejected me. And then going on school, you know, when you in a school environment, you're trying to make friends, you get rejected a lot, and so on. It's just
Okay, so how old were you when mom passed on?
I was 9 years. Yes, I was 9 years old.
Okay, and I'm interested in the dad part. Did you more like have a chance to meet? Were you staying with dad when, as he was rejecting you, or as he rejected you, or maybe it's something where mom is impregnated and then dad just decides to reject? How was the story? We just want to clarify.
So the story is mom was impregnated and then dad rejected me. Then we went on to meeting him like after a few years, like a decade. Then recently I met him and he still rejected me.
So at that time they were not married. The time that mom got pregnant, and then it's that thing where you tell him that I'm pregnant and then he rejects, and then after you were born, you still went to dad, but he still rejected that.
The story I am not really sure. I'm not really too sure of what happened between my mom and my father. So what I know is mom took me to South Africa when I was very young. So, and due to unforeseen circumstances, she fell sick. And that time, it was a really difficult time, when TB was still new. She wasn't able to find, they were not able to find a cure for her. So she passed on. So as she passed on, I faced a lot of rejection in the sense that I was alone. I moved from house to house, home to home. You come into this place and you're all excited, maybe something will be different. Then, boom, you treated different. You're not allowed to touch certain things. You're not allowed to eat certain things. You are just not accepted.
Okay, so you were left in the hand in the care initially after mom passed on. You were left in the care of which one of your relatives?
Unfortunately, I wasn't left in the care of any relative. So I don't really know the story. I'm still getting to know the story. You know how God works? You know the saying that says the truth will reveal itself?
Yeah. So it was still in South Africa. That's where you were. That's where mom passed on in South
Yes,
Africa.
yes.
So you were staying in South Africa initially.
Mm-hmm.
So the rejection happened in South Africa.
Yes.
So you really never had relatives in South Africa. You only had mom.
I only had mom, and I had mom, and mom had a cousin.
Okay.
And I don't know what was happening between the two of them, but my mom died. When my mom got sick, I was initially supposed to go to her, but I did not go to her. So something must have transpired between the two of them.
Okay. But how did you find yourself in Zambia now?
Well, story for another day.
Just want to find out. Hey.
Story for another day.
From South Africa, you came to Zambia. That's where the relatives now
Yes.
are. Okay.
Yes. So from South Africa, from South Africa, let me talk about the rejection in South Africa.
Okay.
So talking about the rejection in South Africa and how I dealt with it. My name is Farai. Farai means be happy. And as much as I was constantly being told how my father didn't love me, how my mother didn't love me, how I'm all alone in the world, I always found a piece of me. I always found acceptance in my music, and God has always been there for me. So as much as there are people who are going to neglect you, who are going to reject you, there are people who actually accept you. You know, it may not be, I didn't find it at home, but I did find it at school. I had a lot of friends. I have a friend actually, her name is Amanda, and her mother is helping me out at this difficult time.
I was even going. I'm like, so hey, facing this whole rejection from family, but how were you able to find yourself in school? So you've just cleared that. So they've taken you in, you stay with them, or they just help to
Okay, so for me, my story is quite, I don't know how to put it properly, but like, okay.
It's like this. I told you to just feel free, express
Okay.
yourself nicely, and then you can tell us the parts that you are comfortable telling us.
Okay.
I know you can't share everything because there are things that are a bit sensitive that you just want to hold dear to yourself. But we are ready to listen to whatever that you feel comfortable to tell us. Just feel free. We're able to relate with you. Okay, you're not alone. And you say, hey, I'm here with you. So, yeah.
Okay, so what happened is, when my mother passed on, I was left in the care of her friend named, I forgot her name. I think it was Chamanga. I think so. Yeah, I was so young. So I stayed with her for maybe like a year, just a year. And staying in her care because I was young and she had a daughter. So her daughter would always bully me into doing things that she would want me to do. And if I don't do them, she would run and tell my mommy, Farai is being rude to me. And then her mom would like beat me up. And I started school late. I only got into, I think I skipped grade 1. Then in 2, I didn't finish grade 3 because of this thing where I talk a lot. See, I talk too much. So at school, I would share my story. I'd be like, look, I'm not being treated well at home. And then eventually it got into my aunt's ears. And she was like, oh, I'm not treating you well? And I'll show you that
I'm bad.
I'm better. I'm better. So she took me to my aunt. So my aunt, I was so excited because my experience with my aunt, yes, and my experience with my aunt, because I was always the young one. So I used to get like everything and I used to be spoiled. I'm like, yay, auntie. Then I went.
That was still in South Africa.
Yes, that was still in South Africa. That was like, I think I was like 10. I was 9, 10, 10, 9, yes. So I was so excited, you know. I get there and I speak to my aunt and I tell her, she's like, oh, these people are bad. Oh my gosh, these people are bad. Then, yes, then start staying with my aunt. Then things are okay for like a year, maybe a year, couple months. Then she had a granddaughter. I didn't get along with the granddaughter. That's when, you know, auntie turns, because there's no mommy now. Auntie
turns into mommy and daddy.
Yes, she was always actually mommy and daddy. My aunt and my uncle were like my mom and my dad. So I used to see them, like I used to look up to them, like, oh my gosh, mommy, my parents, like, you know. And when you know, when you go outside as a child, like daddy, mommy, those were like my people, you know. Then months into staying with them, they change. You know, my auntie becomes abusive. She becomes physically abusive. Like a small thing, I remember I used to get beaten for like random stuff, like the TV lost signal. I would get beaten, like swell up a lot. I remember I would just tell my friends like, no, I fell, you know. And that really broke me. So from staying with my aunt, I grew up. Besides being physically abused, I was always I was also emotionally abused. So she would like call me names and tell me how ugly I am, how stupid I am, how I can't amount to anything. Even if I would get like good grades, she'd still just find a way to just make me feel bad. Yes. Yeah. So growing up with that thing, you know, that thing of where you're not good enough, like that thing of you're set apart. You know, you go to school, people have the at least she took me to school. Yes, she fought. Yes. And yes, I'm really grateful for that. I went to school. I went to Falcon. Yes, I went to Falcon. And it was really crazy because I get bruised up and people would ask me questions like, yo, so what's going on?
Bruises would show.
Yes, like I would swell, like I would swell maybe like on my eyes, my hands, especially my hands, like I'd swell, you know, like marks, you know. So I would bruise. I remember one year she stopped me from going to school because she wanted to punish me for something that was not my fault. So I'm just going to try me. Yes. So at a certain age, my uncle started to touch me inappropriately. So when he started to touch me inappropriately, I spoke to her about it. I'm like, look, uncle is doing this. And she was like, what? And then I told her everything because, yeah. And then she got upset. She just told me like, you know what? I can just stop you from going to school.
Because of that.
You know that you won't go to grade 6 because of me. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then the next year, I'm excited, you know, as kids. Yeah, next grade, you're excited. And she tells me, no, you're not going to school, there's no money. And then, okay. Then one time she sent me to go buy something by the shops. So I'm that bubbly child. I was that bubbly child that, like, very open. I saw the owner of the school. I used to talk to her. She's like, hey, you, why aren't you in school? I'm like, no, mommy said there is no money for school. She's like, no, call her, talk to her, then you can come to school for free. Like, you can come to school because I was bright. I was really bright. Like, I used to get 100% in economics and history. Those are my subjects. So I used to get 100%. Everyone just knew that.
Farai is good.
You can't compete with me in history. Nobody used to compete with me in history. So when I got there, she slapped me. She's like, you're not, like, just go. And that day, she stench me food, like I didn't eat. Okay, a year, fast forward to a year, they pushed for me another school, which is a different school from private school.
Government.
Yes, government school. So unfortunately, I had done a grade already. So they told me like, look, in this school that you're taking, there's no space for your grade. So is it okay if we take you like two grades behind? I'm like,
That's like grade 3,
4.
4.
I'm like, no. I'm like, no problem. At least I'm going to school because, you know,
Yeah.
yes. I get to school, they're like, this child doesn't act.
She's a grade 4.
No. Because I used to get everything right. I used to get everything correct. And I'm like, no, I've done this. And they're like, really? They're telling me the story. Oh, really? Then they're like, okay, we'll place you. Yes, so from grade 4, they put me into grade 6. So when they put me into grade 6, I started getting really depressed. Like they put me into grade 6, I was happy, but again at home it was
Inside because
yes, because you know you go to school. I used to look forward to going to school. Go to school, and I was doing well at first. I was doing really well. They even considered taking me into another grade because I was doing really well. Then I started getting depressed because I didn't have friends. I didn't fit in with other people. You know, I would try and make friends with other girls. I couldn't relate. I was always alone, so break time I'll just be sitting alone until I found like one of the guys were like, look, you should come and hang out with us, you know. And I started hanging out with them, and that year was a really rough year for me. That hanging out with them was my highlight, but still I was still sad inside. It went to a point where at home I was constantly being told of how if I were to get hit by a car, they would deny me. So I thought to myself like, look, I'm not needed in this world. I don't I if I could just kill myself, I would be doing a lot of people a favor. So that is a constant thought that was going over my head. And that time, just imagine, I was very young, you know, very young.
Well, that was too much for like a 10-year-old. Like that was everything: emotional, physical, sexual abuse. Okay, boss. So, I'm still curious of the part of how you still found yourself exactly.
Okay, so how I found myself in Zambia is I had my mom passed on. So when my mom passed on, she didn't leave clear documentation for me. I don't know. I think she had it. I don't know what happened to it. So I stayed in SA for quite some time. So luckily, in 2017, at school, I was in high school now. So in high school, a teacher didn't. She really liked me. So every time she'd bring something for me, I would refuse. Now she's like, you, why are you refusing? All the time I bring something I want to do for you. There's this program that she wanted to get me into that would help me with my university application.
Yeah.
She's like, look, I can pay for you. Like it was only like 400, you know. I'm like, no, it's okay. Then she's like, you sit down, tell me what's wrong. Then I didn't say anything. Then my friend was like, no, say something, because she used to witness it. So I couldn't hide anything. So I sat down and I told my teacher, look, this is what's happening. She cried. She's like, oh my gosh, wow.
I can also cry. Hardly holding on right now because, hey, you've uploaded a lot. I'm like, still, but you can proceed.
So, fast forward, yes. So she spoke to my aunt. Then when she spoke to my aunt, she said she wanted to speak to her. I got scared. So when I got scared, she was like, no, don't worry. Because she reassured me. She was like, look, I'll take you home. So she said, I'll take you home. I'm like, at least, because I know my people. At least if I'm away for a couple of days, it can. But I can't stay home today. Then she went home and then she spoke to my aunt. And then after she spoke to my aunt, she's like, no, I'll take you next week. I'm like, oh. So fast forward, I ran away from home. When I ran away from home, I went to my friend's place. So I went to my friend's place, my friend's mom. We went to the police. We reported the situation, and then I was taken into under the government So I was taken under the government. Unfortunately, I did not have, yes, I didn't have proof. I didn't have proof that I belonged to my mom. So I didn't have proof that I belonged to my mom because my mom was married to a South African. So she had full South African documentation. So she's even buried in South Africa. Yes. So because of that, I stayed quite a number of years in the government home until I was of age. So when I was of age, I went to human rights. Human rights said, no, there's no way we can help you. And then luckily, you remember the truth slowly reveals itself. Then I got into contact with one of my mother's aunties, yes, my mother's relatives, of which she provided my father's contacts.
So that is Zambian.
Yes, he's Zambian. So I spoke to him and I told him my situation, and he was like, he come through, I'm lying. Oh, you're my daughter, I'll take care of you, I'll talk to you. And then I'm like, look, I don't need much right now. All I need is just you to make a birth certificate for me, Yes, he made a birth certificate for me. He just kept on delaying. And time was going. And I was in grade 12. And in grade 12, you can't write minus documentation.
For reals?
Yes, you can't. You need the document. So, went to the Zambian embassy and they said, how can we help you? They said, no, we can write a letter stating that we are fixing your papers. But once you're done writing, you have to go back to Zambia. But you cannot go back to Zambia minus not having a relative. Okay, they wrote a letter for me. I did my grade 12. And then they spoke to my father, and my father was like, look, I'm going to take her in. She's my child. She's my daughter. I accept that. And yes, so when it was time for me to leave, come through to Zambia, he just blocked everything. He went mute. And everyone was like, the problem is in South Africa is that when you don't have a document, you need to have proper documentation. So everyone around me were like, no, we cannot take you in because
you don't have documentation.
And if anything were to happen to you, we would be in grave danger. So that's when I spoke to one of my relatives, the same relatives, and they put in money with the home that I was staying in. Then I came here.
Girl, you've been through a lot.
Yeah. You've been through a lot. So after Dad went mute, then you came to Zambia. Did he ever make follow-ups or just efforts to find out how you moved, if you managed to move from South Africa to here?
No. He didn't. He doesn't care. He just literally so what happened is when I got to Zambia, I was like, okay, my aim is I don't know these people and moving house to house. Let me work hard and just push for myself. So luckily I had a birth certificate and I was like, okay, we'll get me an NRC since I have a birth certificate. So I got my NRC. When I got my NRC, I was like, I don't know, I'm just fresh out of high school, grade 12. I'm going to make sure I work hard and I just find a little something for myself, So I pushed. Then I found a job as a waitress. I didn't know what I wanted to do, like literally. I didn't. I was clueless. So I really enjoyed my job. I love my job, I'm a bubbly person. I think you've seen. I love talking to people. So I love talking to people and I love making people feel good. So I love my job because I get to come here and treat you well and make you smile and make you feel good. So people like me there a lot. And I would get tips and I would get that. And unfortunately it didn't work out, That's when I realized that, I want to do this. I want to get into hospitality. But
So that's the root cause, so that's where hospitality now comes in.
Yes.
I understand.
So before that, I wanted to be an air hostess because I came here by plane. I came by plane. So I enjoyed that host experience, how she made me feel. So I love making people feel good about themselves. So that and also the hospitality thing. But okay, I want to get into school now. I don't have money. And I lost my job, and my relatives were telling me that, look, if you want to get into school, like if you want to get into high school, you have to go back to, if you want to go to uni, unfortunately, you have to go back to high school. I'm like, high school? What I learned in essay and what I learned in... So I won't manage. And the thing about my uncle is, it's his way or no way at all. So I was like, no, sorry, I can't help you. So now I'm home. I have nowhere to go to school. So being home, like we had flour. My aunt used to work for the bakery. So I was home. I fell in love with baking. I love baking. I love cooking. I fell in love with that. So when I would bake something, I would send a picture. I kept in contact with the people from the home where I used to stay. Yeah. So there is this one lady she was like our guardian. She used to take care of us. She used to register us into school, take us to court, anything regarding us when you get sick. She also used to give us therapy. She was our therapist as well. So she left the house. So when she left the house, the name of the place is called The House. It's a really nice, yes.
That's why
really
you're
nice.
calling it the house.
Yes. It's the house group for girls. They help vulnerable girls who are in different situations where they have problems in families or they've been hurt. Oh, yes. So that place is a beautiful place. Very beautiful place. They give hope. Yes. So my home is my home. So I kept into contact with her and I started speaking with her. Then one day she told me, look, there's something I'm looking into, but I'll call you one day. Then one day she's like, when you get home, and when your aunt comes home, please let me know. Call me. Then I sat down and then I was like, okay. I called her and then she said, look, how much is school and how much are fees? And go and find out and then come back to me. Then I was excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to school. So yes, so I checked into the place. I'm like, okay, yeah, the aim is to go overseas. So I'm going to go overseas. So what can get me overseas? And besides that, what course can I do, like different things? I can do different things. Besides, because this economy is rough. So you can study one thing. I wanted something that will allow me to be free, you see? Then I found hospitality. Then on my way, I found hospitality. Like, oh, you can do hospitality. There's a degree, there's a diploma, and there's a certificate, and then there's an advanced certificate. Then there was IATA. Like, there's IATA, and then there was cabin crew. So I really wanted to be an air hostess, but the money was, it was a lot. So I went back excited. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a cabin crew. I tell her I want to do it. And I tell her, no, this is cabin crew. She's like, I can't afford that much, She's like, I'm like, okay, then let me do the one for 3 years. She's like, I cannot commit to 3 years. Yeah. Okay. It's like, okay, then there is this one for 1 year, 6 months. At least it will empower me to even make my own business, start my own business. She's like, yeah, sure. Then when I go back to register, then madam was like, look, the certificate that you want to do, it won't carry much weight. So try doing this one for 2 years. Try doing this one for 2 years. I'm like, okay. The last year, just try and sacrifice and find the money. So it's easier asking for less than for more. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get whatever she gives me and then keep it. Yes, I'll top up. So I do small hustles, whenever I find something, find something. So as I go and register to find out that, look, you cannot get into school direct. You need to switch your results. You need to take your results from Zambian standard from South African standard to Zambian standard. So I get there, then the lady's like, we need a confirmation that these results are I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been a fight. I get there and she just keeps on brushing me off. I try and get people in SA to help me out and people are telling me excuses until I managed to find my principal's number and then he wrote He wrote me a letter. He sent me via email, and then I took it to the, and then I managed to get inside.
You're one fighter, trust me. I don't know if I've come across a number of people that have gone through rejection, but the kind of fights that you've put on, especially looking at your age, is one big fight. Especially the fact that from the way you're saying it, you've just been fighting.
It's been a fight.
Girl.
It's been a fight. So
In a fight, indeed.
I'm sent money. Straight, I'm sent money exactly for my school fees. And I had to remove about a 1,300 from that. So I had to go and look for another 1,000 so I can get
Into school.
into school.
So now, so she gives you like, so it's 1 year, 6 months program?
Yes. She said she paid per semester. So
Okay.
according to our agreement, she was just supposed to pay for tuition. And then the other things, my aunt was supposed to help me out. Then my aunt switched on me. Then when she switched on me, at first, at the beginning, I paid, from the money that she gave me, I paid about a half. And then the others, I had to get myself like some things for school and also transport. And then I had found a small job then, but I lost it because my aunt was like, no, this job is not, it's dangerous, I'll help you out. And then when I went to ask for help, she switched on me. So it got to a point where I stopped going to school. And I stopped going to school. It was rough. It really hurt. But somebody from school was like, look, you can switch to distance. So I'm a distance learner. And I'm still doing my school. And I'm about to graduate, which is next year, July.
Girl, I'm proud
So,
of
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, ish. I'm trying so hard to hold myself not to cry, not to get emotional right now, but so you managed to overcome all that.
Yes.
You fought all that, and now you're about to graduate. And then there's somebody out there who's just seated and says, I have no one to help me. I have no one to fight for me. So I've stopped fighting. But see what you've done. Your story alone, minus the actions, minus what you've achieved, can actually make somebody say, okay, if she did it, I just have to do it. I don't know how many high fives I can just give you right now, but girl, you are one strong lady. Yeah, especially the fact that aside from fighting for a place in the family, so I wouldn't just say it's only dads that rejected you. It's like the whole family has rejected you. But see, you're fighting for a place in the family, fighting to be educated, fighting to be this independent lady. Wow. This is just wow. But hey, let's move on to the bright side now. Let's move on to the bright side before I start crying. But I'll cry later. So Joseph was rejected. Joseph was rejected, betrayed, everything abandoned by his own people, his own brothers for that matter. They rejected him, they abandoned him, they betrayed him. But there came a stage, yeah, he went through rough times, he was even thrown into a war, but he became a great person afterwards. After all that rejection, he became a great person. So, and I'm seeing the great person in you. You are already great. And there's more to that. So, do you think that you, just as David overcome everything, because I believe you're still in the process of, becoming great. You've overcome the rejection because, no. Let's see. How did you manage now to accept everything, to overcome everything? Yeah.
Okay, so talking about Joseph, right? Joseph was, before he was taken into a well, his character was something else. So from him being taken into a well, from him being put in that prison, everything was for a reason. God was working on him, for other people. So how did I overcome it? I can only say it's God. Prayer, praying, believing beyond measure, because I am ridiculously delulu. Delulu is the solulu to your polulu. So not only being delulu is my delulu is believing that God's got me. Like I am God is my father. Like yes, I have been neglected by this physical father, but my spiritual father, my creator, will never neglect me. He always has a way of taking care of me. Whenever I need something, he'll just send somebody. Whenever I'm hopeless, like I just look up to him. Or sometimes I don't even look onto him. I just lean into his word. I'm not really good at memorizing Bible verses, but lately I've been growing my faith, and everything just makes sense for me because God is never, guys. God, don't underestimate him. He's always there.
So you've actually benefited from this rejection.
Yes, it has made me a better person. It has taken me from being as a young girl in this generation, it's easy for you to go wayward, and it's easy for you to feel entitled. But in actual fact, everything that I've gone through has really inspired me to become a better person, and also to strive for something better in life. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow. Just wow.
So, in case you're just joining us, we are talking about rejection. Rejection, yes. So, our guest for today is Farai. Farai just shared the story that she has been through, the rejection that she actually went through. And at the end of the day, as she said, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So, see what Farai has become. She's now a student. She's striving for that. No, let me just not say much. Let me just not say much. Farah, you've said everything that a person would want to hear. And if a person can't transform after hearing your story, and if a person can't get up and decide to say, hey, my life is my responsibility, then they just don't want to. Because if you could do it, you out there, you could also do it. You can also do it, actually. So I'm proud of you, Farai. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
I can't even say I'm stronger than you are, because you're actually the strongest young lady that I've come across now. Yeah, and I don't know if I'll ever meet another one, but Kaya, for now, you are the strongest young lady that I have ever met. And I've also, you've inspired me also in a way, because, this is just great. But I just want people to hear it from you. That person that is going through rejection right now, the person that is just seated, has given up, has stopped fighting, because you went through a number of situations that could have made you to sit down and just say, okay, I've stopped everything. Okay, I'll just kill myself. But you didn't do that. Here you are now a student about to graduate. Few years from now, we'll be seeing a star that God is raising through you. All right. So to that person that is just seated, what's your word of advice? What's your word of encouragement?
My word of encouragement is that rejection doesn't really exist. Like, people don't matter. God matters, and He's true. One thing is that when people are gonna constantly make you feel bad about yourself, when you're gonna face situations where you're being rejected, the actual truth is that you're big. Like, you're big. There's something big for you out there, and if it doesn't work out, then it wasn't meant for you. If it doesn't work out, at least you said, you know what, it didn't work out, but I pushed. I pandered.
That's better you say with dignity
Yes.
than not trying.
But than not trying at all, because things work out. It's just you who keeps your mind, you just limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. Be there for yourself. God, always link me to God, because He's the one that will always accept you despite the rejection.
So hey, this young lady is a student. She's also paying for herself at school. Yeah, she gets help there and then, but I would say majority of it is her efforts because she has to study. She also has to put on something on her education. And by the way, she also sells perfume. So she's a business lady. So if you are a student who feels like, hey, my parents are not taking me to school, my people are not doing this and that for me, it's time to get up and start doing something. If Farai can start selling perfumes to help herself with school, you can also venture into something that will help you to go to school. Yeah, so Farai, I'm gonna have to let you go for now, but thank you so much for coming through. I'm really humbled. Okay, I'm really humbled to have you on board. Your story is one magnificent story. Your story is one touching, heart melting, something to learn from. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me. It was such a lovely time to get to meet you. You're such a lovely person, and thank you for the team for inviting me, and thank you for everyone who's listening to me. And don't forget, you're the best. You're the best.
Take a chance and lift the haze. Tammy talks and hearts revive. And these words our souls survive. Empowerment in every phrase. Take a chance and lift the haze.